Begin. Good evening, Rotarians, and all you colleagues in peace. I'm Jim Halderman and the chair of the Peace Committee for District 5450. I am the chair of the Peace Committee for District 5450 that hosts the forum for discussion. Tonight, we're very pleased to have Rudy Westervelt bring his expertise to us for our time together. He is a highly in-demand speaker for many Rotary clubs, and many of us here know him by participating in one of his several peace conferences that he has put on. Some on the behalf of Rotary presidents and others to a gift to society in the efforts for peace. I had the pleasure of hearing him present at the Birmingham Peace Conference a while back, and I know he has a wealth of knowledge. And Rudy, the screen is now yours.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share my screen here if I can find the PowerPoint. Oop. Now I got to get my dog likes to interfere with the slideshow here. We'll get it here. Here we go. Okay, today you got all the peacemakers on here and several club members, even Barbara's joined us here. So it's great to see everybody tonight. And just want to talk about all the different ways we as Rotarians have and use to create peace in the world. And the first one is looking at our object of Rotary. If you look at number 4 down there and the object of Rotary, it's the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace through a world fellowship of business and professional persons united in the ideal of service. And so it's very integral part of Rotary from our founding. And of course, our 4-way test. And it's more than just, reciting the 4-way test. We need to make sure that we live the 4-way test. And before we send that text message, send that email, pick up the phone, we really think about what we're saying, what we're doing, and how it's going to affect another person. And of course, many of you are Rotarians and have your own businesses, and you have the Rotary wheel in the window of your business. And Rotarians' integrity is one thing that we stand for. Our truth, our caring, our concern for others, and integrity, and what we do out in the communities leads us to peace and peace leaders in our communities all around the world. Of course, we're in almost every country and territory on the planet here. So how do we actually get out there and create peace? Our number one program that brings peace on our planet here is our continued efforts here to eradicate polio. And I know we're down to a few cases left in Afghanistan and Pakistan. They've identified where the border crossings are, even though the border there is fairly porous, of where these are taking place. And of course, our partners in this process happen to be the World Health Organization, CDC, UNICEF, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and are leading us here in this charge. We know that recently our leadership in America here decided to pull out of the World Health Organization. They also have laid off a lot of people at the CDC. And in fact, our global polio eradication effort, they're not even allowed, CDC is not allowed to talk to Rotarians in that process right now. They're muzzled, which is a shame. Fortunately, there's other countries who have stepped up to put money into the World Health Organization and our global polio eradication efforts to continue the process here. As Rotarians, we give about $50 million a year to the process, and it's matched 2-to-1 with the Gates Foundation. So that's $150 million a year that go into this. But we need other resources from certainly World Health Organization with help with UNICEF and the tracing and tracking. But even if you look at where we are in Afghanistan and Pakistan, our healthcare people that are going into that region to immunize the children are women. Because of the cultural norms in that region, only a woman can be near another woman. And unfortunately, some sometimes there's been attacks on our women there. Now, recently, there's a change in the Taliban leadership in Afghanistan, and the women aren't allowed to go house to house. So Rotary's pivoted, and they've set up centers, regional centers, for the women to bring their children to regional centers to get immunized, which is still extremely important in this whole process of immunizing children. And of course, the Taliban don't want their children to get polio either. And so this continues. And recently, you noticed that the war was paused in Gaza for the children there to be immunized when they started having outbreaks of polio in the Gaza Strip. And when I was district governor back in 2015-16, President Ravi was our Rotary National President from Sri Lanka. And he's a very successful businessman and influential in that country. And he was able to bring to bear and the warring factions in Sri Lanka to put their arms down and allow every child in that country be immunized to eradicate polio in that country once and for all. And so that's how we create peace in this world. And you know, as we know, it's only really a plane ride away. It's been found in the last couple of years in the sewer systems in New York City. And it really, truly is only a plane ride away. That's why we need to finish the job with this. Unfortunately, in the United States today, we have many people who don't believe in taking vaccines or get their children vaccinated. We recently see a measles outbreak down in Texas and spreading to a few other states. And so it's extremely important that we do the right thing and continue the job here. And I applaud each of you for your donations to make this possible. What you do locally on your service projects as a community help you create peace, whether that's fixing up a school, fixing up a home for seniors, helping those less fortunate, working in a food bank, volunteering on different projects, working in your local school systems. Whatever those happen to be, that service, you're creating peace in those communities. In our local district here in 5330 in Southern California, we have been taking a team of Rotary volunteers across the border to Mexicali to do work down there for several years on a school for the deaf. And again, it's creating relationships between our Rotary clubs here, Rotary clubs down there, and learning how to sit down together and break bread together and learn and create peace between Rotarians in different countries. And so as much as we create positive feelings in others as we do service, it gives us twice that amount of goodness and feeling and health for us in receiving back when we give. Vocational training teams. In our district, and probably your district up there, you've sent teams to go out of the country to use their vocational skills to work on projects. Recently, we sent a team down to Brazil from our district to work on resilience training. And they learned about what's happening on the ground down there for resilience and trauma therapy and how to deal with problems, and as well as helping out down there. In our Rotary Club of World Peace, one of our members, John Dar Bradshaw, lives in Cleveland and has been working with high school robotics teams for over a quarter of a century. He's started 6 robotics teams in inner city Cleveland, one of those an all-girls team. One of our Rotarians in our district works with International Medical Alliance and spoke to our Rotary Club of World Peace about going to Ecuador. And he talked about this little girl who was missing a hand and an arm below the elbow. He went back to his students and said, this little girl has never been able to use her hand and arms to pick up a glass, to turn a page in a book. Those students went back and designed robotic hand and arm for her, 3D printed them, and they were delivered to this little girl in Ecuador. And they've continued to do that work, and they're connecting online. Now they're training, the students are training other students in other countries on how to do 3D printing. And this next year in the fall, we're actually going to take a team with John Dar to Amman, Jordan, because we do have a member in Jordan and Rotary clubs there. And they're going to train students on the ground in Jordan on how to 3D print hands and arms. And again, these are using time and talents not only from our adults, but our youngsters, and it could be your Interact students in your district or Rotaractors. Rotary Friendship Exchange, and you've probably been on, some of you may have gone on these friendship exchanges or home hosted. But as we take a group of Rotarians to another country or are home hosted, we learn their culture, we learn their foods, and we learn what we have in common as Rotarians, because we're one humanity on this planet, and we know that all of us need a roof over our head, food on our table, clean water, sanitation, warmth, caring and love for each other to make a difference. And when you home host a family back in your own home, they become another set of brothers and sisters in the world here and make good, positive, peaceful connections. Many of you may know that India and Pakistan haven't always been friendly for each other. So there's actually a peace park there, the Indus Peace Park, right on the border. And of course, the conventions. I don't know how many of you have been to an international convention. There's been several around. I know that I've been to a lot of them, and in 2017 in Atlanta, I was the programs chair for the pre-convention peace conference there. So going into my governor's year, I thought, could we put on a Rotary World Peace Conference that looked like a Rotary International Convention, where we had general sessions and breakout sessions and a house of friendship. And so we rented out a whole convention center here in Southern California, and got special rates at a hotel. And another hotel, we had an Interact Peace Conference with Peace Fellows to go on at the same time. We had 6 general sessions with special speakers, and we had 13 different tracks working on solutions to peace, personal life, homeschool, business, community, international trade, film, TV, media, and so on. We had 104 breakout sessions, 150 different experts, and we brought together our other districts here in Southern California. And that first one in 2016 was named one of President Ravi's presidential conferences that year. And and then my wife thought I was bored, so we did it again in 2020, and took on some good things. And it was not about talking about problems; it was talking about solutions, as somebody mentioned here, to human trafficking and child abuse, domestic violence, and so forth. And we talked about many things that affect us today, and how to deal with those with different solutions in this realm. And in the first peace conference, we brought in a group of there were violinists from Yakutsk, Siberia, who came and performed there. They were incredible performers. And when they came over, Rotarians in our district home hosted a group of violinists in their homes who were from Siberia. They home hosted them. In fact, we cooked them lunch here on our deck at our home, and we still have friendships with them today. And it's been a good relationship. But from the 2016 Peace Conference, I thought, all these peacemakers need to be in Rotary. And that's how we started the Rotary Club of World Peace. And so we've been meeting online since June of 2016 on Zoom. So when COVID hit, my phone rang a lot about how do you do a Zoom meeting. But some were mentioned here about the peace conference that happened in Birmingham, Alabama. Will Ratliff, who and his wife Carolyn, who are and a few others from the Rotary Club in Birmingham, Alabama, came to our peace conferences. And they decided to have a peace conference in Birmingham based on human rights and civil rights. And if you see the dates there, May 4th through 6th, it was the anniversary of the Children's March at that time. And so we attended and got to listen to 2 women who were children at the time, back when the Children's March had, and they talked about being knocked down with the fire hoses and the clothes ripped off their bodies. They talked about their two girlfriends that were in the church that was bombed and died. There was also a man, the last living freedom rider. Before he could get on the buses, they had to sign a form that said, you're going to get called names, spit on, beaten. You could even get killed, but you're to make sure you have no resistance. You have to sign this form that you will not resist whatever happens to you. And one gentleman there, the last living freedom rider, happened to speak there, and he had a distinguished career after that in the military, in the Marines. But at that time, the bus ahead of him was firebombed. Everyone died on that bus. His bus, they were stopped and dragged off and beaten with pipes. And to hear this from somebody that experienced that is important for us to not forget and to remember our past. And so it's important for each of us to realize what those are so that we can make sure these don't happen again. One of the things, of course, in Rotary, that's another way to create peace, is our youth exchange. And I'm sure in your district, you've had high school students go out and go to another country for their school year and are home hosted and another family there. That'll be another mom and dad for them. And you may have home hosted students in your own home that you've had lifelong contact with since then. And so these are, again, good ways with our youth exchange internationally to help create peace and better understanding in the world. Back in 1945, at the end of the World War II, there were about 50 Rotarians up in San Francisco that were invited to be part of writing the charter for the United Nations. That's why we have a close relationship with the UN today. Barbara's on here. She has her UNA USA Santa Barbara group. But there's a UN Day at the UN every year. We're part of each of the branches there. UNESCO, UNICEF, and World Health Organization, of course, help us with our polio eradication efforts. The Food and Agriculture is important. World Bank, and of course, Rotarians believe and adopt similarly Universal Declaration of Human Rights as we take care of each other around the world in that region. And every year, Rotarians are named to be on each of these silos or committees at the UN. And so we're an extremely important part of the United Nations in staying connected with them. In our Rotary Foundation, of course, in our giving, there's different ways to use our annual fund dollars. Peacebuilding and conflict prevention is one of those. And of course, disease prevention and treatment, I mentioned polio and those efforts to help us create peace. Water and sanitation. There are certainly wars. There have wars been fought over water rights. And so it's important to continue to make sure everybody has a clean supply of water. And I did mention one of the grants that somebody did was a village in Africa where girls had to walk several miles to carry water back to their village every day. And the girls were being kidnapped and raped along the way. And Rotarians put a water well in that local village. And so those girls didn't have to walk and put their lives in danger anymore. And so it not only gave clean water to that little village, but it created peace and safety for those children. Maternal and children's health, education and literacy. We certainly know that we need a well-educated world out there if they're going to make a living and teach their family and children along the way. Economic development creates peace. If you can have a career, earn an income, and support your family, that's extremely important. And one of the ways in economic development, even and you may have been involved in some of our clubs, have put in like sewing machine projects over in India or somewhere else where women are given sewing machines and trained how to use them and make clothes and sell them and earn a living. And of course, the latest one was added is supporting our environment. And we know that we need to help our environment because there are plenty of people losing their homes and becoming refugees because of increased flooding and dangers out there and fires and a variety of other things that are happening. So we need to take care of our environment out there. On the global grant side, if you want to support global grants related to peace, one of those is certainly fighting human trafficking. And I know somebody mentioned here, it might have been Dave earlier, that you've been involved learning more about human trafficking and supporting some of those, even with a small peace conference. And Dave McCleary down in Atlanta helped start one of Rotary Action Group around that area down there. So he's somebody you can always get a hold of, reach in that area. Mediation training is certainly important for us to learn more about that, to help break down barriers and bring two sides together. You can have a positive peace workshop, and I'll mention here about the pillars of positive peace and Institute for Economics and Peace in a moment. And you can always support Peace Corps projects. We think about our Peace Corps members going out to other countries, but Rotarians could fund a Peace Corps project or work with former Peace Corps volunteers to develop projects in countries that they knew and visited, with our connections with Rotary clubs in those areas. On your district grants, part of your money you can use on district grants and projects from your club could be anti-bullying training. We know bullying today is worse than it ever was. Bullying was alive and well when I was a youngster 100 years ago, and today it's even worse because of our smartphones. I call them stupid phones, but with text messages and posting photos, nasty photos of different kids out there, they're being bullied more than ever, and many are so affected by it they're taking their own lives and committing suicide. And so we need to be strong and take a stand on that. Trauma therapy is one of those that we know people go through, and you can work with your Veterans Administration and local veterans in your area up there and work on trauma therapy. Or women that have gone through abuse or even child abuse and trauma therapy that have gone through some of these efforts. Anti-gang training. There's maybe no gangs in your district, but I know that locally here, not too far from us, there's a city that's has a lot of gang activity. And so we've got a lot of work there to do yet. Suicide prevention, again, there's classes and training to work on some of these things back in your school systems, and or with adults for that matter. We actually had a member of our club a few years back commit suicide, and so it's important that we take this on and try to have prevention around this. Child abuse and spousal abuse, I don't think as Rotarians we take that on enough. And it's really something we could do in our communities to make a difference out there. Peer mediation in schools. When children get in trouble, they're sent to the principal's office. What would happen if we taught peer mediation? So it was a group of students, high school students, mediating a problem between two students that were having an issue. And it would strengthen them and learn their skills. And that would be, it probably take some pressure off the schools and make them more peaceful. And of course, peace literacy projects you can have, and education, and your youth leadership camps. I'm sure you have RILA camps in your district. Up there, we have actually 2 camps in our district down here, 5330, with about 300 students at each camp. They're high school juniors for a 3-day camp. But those are all important youth camps to get together and learn that each of them has problems come up in their lives that they don't know about. In fact, on our camp here, we do something called Culture Walk. And one of the first nights is we break the group into about 100 kids. And it's a very serious discussion. And we ask if you're in a certain group to come forward, and we ask them 3 questions. What's it feel like to be part of a group? What do you never want to hear again about being part of the group? And what can we do to support your group? And so we start off with, if you're female, step forward. And the boys have to listen and the girls answer those questions. And then if you're male, step forward, and the same thing. And then we get into bullying and some other issues there. And one of the boys spoke up that he was bullied, and one of the other kids just told him to go kill himself. And these are problems that we need to understand that this is happening today, so that we can able to give them support and deal with them. But they understand up there during that, at the end of that, one night, they're changed. The next day, they're the best of friends because they know they're not alone. They're not the only ones being bullied. They're not the only ones from a single parent family. They're not the only ones going through different issues in their lives. And they make friends, lifelong friends at this camp. Rotary fellowships. hopefully many of you have gone on Rotary.org and set up your My Rotary account, and you can go down through and look at a list of fellowships that you can become a part of. There's one that's fellowship for past district governors. There's one for beers enjoyed worldwide, but under peace, two there that stick out are Rotarians Against Racism and the elimination of nuclear weapons. And also there are Rotary action groups that have been started to promote peace. And I mentioned the domestic violence one. Of course, peace, slavery prevention is the one for human trafficking. And of course, refugees, forced displacement, and immigration. And today, there's millions and millions of people displaced because not just of environment issues, but floods and hurricanes and other things happening, rising levels on islands and that sort of thing. But with the conflict going on, the Ukraine war, displaced refugees there, moving across the border, a lot of them going to Poland, and most of them are women and children. And they're the highest levels affected by war and the refugees in these areas. And so we need to figure out how do we support them? How do we take care of them? And of course, as you saw for the first time ever in disaster relief fund for the Ukraine war, they said a man-made disaster could be, you could donate your money to help victims from refugees from a human-made disaster, not just a natural disaster, and Ukraine fit underneath that. Now, our Rotary Club of World Peace gave a lot of money to the Rotary Foundation to that. In fact, we held an online concert to raise money in support of that, and our district approved a $25,000 relief grant to help set up a shelter in Kyiv. Rotary Action Group for Peace, hopefully some of you are members of that. I know I see plenty of peacemakers on there, and Barbara has been a leader in that group. And you can be an active peace builder club. You can help connect with other peace fellows and certainly with other peace builders. You can also have International City of Peace. Fred Arment, who's the CEO of that organization, happens to be a member of our Rotary Club of World Peace. Locally here, Crestline is an International City of Peace. Down the mountain from us here, we've got San Bernardino as an International City of Peace, and now there are over 400 International Cities of Peace around the world. You can also go online and get a peace poll and put it up at your local park, or work with your Interact students to create a peace area at their school, or work with the Boys and Girls Club. And again, a peace poll is has May Peace Prevail on 4 different sides. One of those can be English and 3 other languages, and put that somebody where you can highlight peace. One of the areas that we have in Rotary here is something called inter-country committees. As Rotarians, there's one that's U.S. and in India, U.S. and Ukraine, U.S. and Russia, and I've been on a couple of those ones with U.S. and Russia. They're interesting meetings. But our E-Club of World Peace has been having monthly meetings. We were having monthly meetings with 2 clubs, one in Vladivostok and one in St. Petersburg. Right now, we're only having a monthly meeting with St. Petersburg White Knights Club. It's called White Knights because there's a time of year where it's light out 24 hours a day. And we do different, one month they give a presentation, next month we give a presentation. But we better understand each other. We don't talk about the war there because their social media is being monitored and they could be arrested, or I don't want to be the reason that Rotary gets kicked out of Russia because we need to be there. They have the same issues, the homelessness, needs for seniors, education. There's a variety of things that we all as human beings have needs, and it helps us bring us closer together. We were meeting with Vladivostok with a friend of mine, and she worked for the government, and she was concerned because if the government found out she was meeting online with somebody from the United States, she could be fired or put in prison. And so we had to stop meeting with Vladivostok Club. But again, you can have sister clubs somewhere else in the world and meet with them on a different basis, monthly or however you want to meet, and develop friendships along the way that connect you together. And each of these connections help us create peace between each other and between countries and between, not just between Rotarians and clubs, but we help spread the word. I mentioned partnerships. Peace Corps is an official partner. Shelter Box is one of those. Institute for Economics and Peace and Mediators Beyond Borders International. The Peace Corps has been certainly a great one to be part of us. Shelter Box was started by Rotarians who developed a box for those for refugees in need, and as a full shelter box, it's a full tent and supplies, sleeping bags, water filtration, and other things. The president of Shelter Box USA happens to live in Santa Barbara, close to Barbara Mueller, who's on with us tonight. And when the earthquake happened in Turkey, I did reach out, as Jim might have also here, to my governor classmates, and right away sent a note to them saying, where did that earthquake hit worse and what do you need? And within a matter of minutes, my classmates answered back to me, like Jim's might have, when we have 530 classmates around the world here. And they let us know where the earthquake hit. And I reached out to our Shelter Box representative here in the United States, and she let me know that across the border in Syria, they had already set up and been there for years with a supply of shelter boxes, and they were able to move those quickly across the border into Turkey to help out right away. And so that's been extremely important as an operation in peace building and help for those areas. Mediators Beyond Borders International is a partner. The CEO of that organization, Prabha, is a member of our E-Club World Peace and doing good work. And we mentioned about conversations, and earlier in the kind of the pre-chat here, we talked about women in Rotary. And one of the things she's been talking, I've been on a few meetings, is with the fall of the Assad regime, there's a new group of leaders coming in and taking over the government there. And their goal is to have women's voices or women be part of redeveloping the Constitution leadership there at about 30% rate. And so I've been able to sit in on and listen to women on the ground in Syria and what they're going through and the issues they're having, so that we can learn better on how we could, as Rotarians, through Mediators Beyond Borders, help that situation and give them the support that they need. Institute for Economics and Peace has been a partner. In fact, there's a Rotarian or a past Peace Fellow, Summer Lewis, who heads that up and works in Evanston, Illinois, at our headquarters. Works with Institute for Economics and Peace, started by Steve Killalay, a think tank out of Australia. He has a positive peace index he puts out annually, as well as one on terrorism and a few other things. And you can also do training to learn how to create peace. And he came up with looking at peace in these positive pillars of peace and what you need there, with a well-functioning government, equitable distribution of resources, free flow of information and truthful information up and down, good relations with all your neighbors, valuing and having high levels of human capital, acceptance of other people's rights, having low levels of corruption, and having a sound business environment. When people can earn a living and support their families, it becomes a peaceful society when you work together. And part of this is you can go online and take courses in Positive Peace Academy and become positive peace activators. And there's many around the world now that have learned this and are applying this around the world. I think one of the shining stars for Rotary, a diamond we have out there, are our peace centers. Unlike any other organization, Rotary has invested in making sure we develop and train people in peacemaking. And our peace centers now are around the world, and our master's programs are, of course, in the United States. There's one at Duke UNC, Uppsala in Sweden, Bradford in the UK, International Christian University in Japan, and in Queensland, Australia. We have a peace center. These are all master's programs. In each of the master's programs, all the students there have to be from outside that country. There's one in Makerere. It's a certificate program and that program is in Africa for Africans. and all the students there are from somewhere in Africa. We know that Africa has a lot of issues with conflict and peace, and the goal is to train our peace fellows there to go back into their home countries in Africa and help create peace in their communities. The newest one just happened recently, and there was a presidential peace conference that Stephanie Urchek had in Istanbul at Bakashir University, kind of ribbon cutting there. And when they decided to have a peace center in North Africa, Middle East, they were looking in Egypt, of course, Turkey, Israel, Jordan, and that university in Turkey won out. I guess fortunately, as we mentioned, some folks that attended that actually spoke at many of our members went to that. And Richard Denton, who's on our meeting tonight, also went there, but they explained what they learned from that peace conference and brought it back and shared with us. But they also said that based on the what's going on in the streets there against the government of Turkey, they're lucky that they had it a few weeks earlier. But I also understand that the one in Chula in Thailand closed down because of issues with that school there agreeing to teach our curriculum, and they're looking at opening another one somewhere in India, which would be important for Southeast Asia. And of course, you can see we have over 1,400 all around the globe, and they're in a variety of doing a variety of peacemakers. We have 2 on our Rotary Club of World Peace. Scott Martin happens to be one of those, and he works with Mediators Beyond Borders International, and he's actually taught classes at Makerere in Uganda. And so they are, again, extremely involved. And of course, I mentioned our E-Club of World Peace that we started back in June of 2016. But, you know, there's a variety of ways that we have that we don't always understand and use. And I think it's important for us, whether it's club presidents, president to president in our communities, connecting with other presidents of the world, our reach here as district governors during our training, and certainly at our last official training as governor-elects, when we go to International Assembly and meet our other 530 classmates from all the countries and territories in the world. That's our Rotary family and connection globally. And it's important for us to reach out and use those connections that we have and develop these friendships. And I think what's important is, unfortunately, with technology today, we're able to get on right away and connect with Rotarians on the ground in another country. Instead of turning on the TV and getting different channels of news out there, we can talk to people that are going through wars and conflict or things from natural disasters, and they can show us what's on the ground, and we can talk about what those needs are and develop those relationships and global grants and projects together to work on to make a difference in our world. And I challenge each of us to a better job of reaching out, connecting, and using the resources we have. This is our family of Rotary, our 1.2 million Rotarians and a couple 100,000 Rotaractors, again, in almost every country and territory. Let us use the greatest humanitarian network in the world that we have in our hands to make our world a more peaceful place, a more understanding place, and a more caring place. And as I mentioned this morning, as I spoke to a club on the same thing as I'm speaking tonight, let us use our senses the same way. We look, but do we see? We touch, but do we feel? Do we listen, but do we hear? Use our senses to really understand better each other and our relationships and create peace on the world. Thank you.
Wow, we thank you, Rudy. It is amazing. We all know some pieces and parts of Rotary, but few of us know all of the things that are going on. It is so complex. Does anybody have any questions for Rudy? And hold up your virtual hand because we have larger than a screen.
Looks like Chuck Willery has a question.
Chuck?
Yeah, thank
You
you.
have your hand up. Yes.
Rotary, Rudy, thank you so much for, I actually slipped into a peace group, this peace group, to get it to work on root causes because I didn't know that it did. And when I found out the degree to which it did, I am full in. Please adopt me. It's like I am fully in on it. And I'm just so excited. We Richard Denton and them sent me a copy of the 1959 Rotary Seven Pillars of Peace. And it just completely blew me away about how much Rotary has been doing forever on those root causes. And I've been at it for about 45 years. And actually, I bumped into Rotary during the eradication of polio way back when, but they didn't give me the four-way test. And when COVID came and polio returned to New York, I went to my first Rotary meeting. And as soon as they said the four-way test, is it true? Sign me up, sign me up. Right now, I see the biggest problem we face is fighting truth decay. And I want to talk to you about that at some time at because I actually have a plan I'm working on to bring the self-evident truths to every Rotary club in all 46,000 in all 200 countries, every community, to really build from the community up the idea of taking care of one another and the environment. And anyway, so I'll talk to you later about that.
Thank you, Chuck. Great comment.
I did have a question in the chat about the Sustainable Development Goals. What's the chances of Rotary taking that on as our underlying kind of foundation of the pillars? And anyway, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think those are questions we take on, and we look at those, and we probably go district by district and look at how that best fits in to what we're doing. And a lot of those goals also fit in with our areas of focus and that we can use through our Rotary Foundation to make an impact.
Catherine?
Thank you, Jim. And thank you, Rudy. Really great to see that broad view of everything that Rotary is involved in connected to peace. So I'm a Rotary Peace Fellow from Chulalongkorn. Very sad it's closed, but we have great Rotary Peace Fellows alum all over the world. And many of us are working on a lot of projects together, and we're connecting more and more to the peace groups and peace builders within Rotary, the Rotarians as well. So that's really exciting. I just wanted to know from your perspective, kind of looking at the whole picture, where you see opportunities and direct, like practical ways or ideas that we could build and grow the connection and knowledge of the Rotarians, of the Rotary Peace Fellows, because we have so much expertise and skills and passion, and sometimes aren't quite sure how to get as connected. Some of us are doing more than others. Maybe it's a little easier, let's say in the US or parts of Europe. But just, broadly, where do you think, I know people are doing the IP program, but where, and the program in Alabama at the Peace Conference was also really awesome and brought a lot of us together. But where do you see those possibilities, and what could we do to move that forward?
I would think, Catherine, one is, of course, you have the Peace Fellow Alumni Association, you kind of that group together. And if you could make sure you connect certainly with your Rotary district, and so we're aware of what you would like to do, where you're located, and that kind of thing, so we can use your skills. I did mention that here in Southern California we have 2 Peace Fellows that happen to be in our club. We have more than that, actually. We've got a couple that we're going to are getting their applications in. Our club is recommending for next cohort next year. But I would think that through the Alumni Association, if there's a way for us to develop a list of who's available, so that when we have these projects, peace building projects in our local communities, we can call on you to use your skills in this arena. And certainly, I think one of the things can be done is to also connect with your districts and your clubs in your districts to look at how do you support the Interact students in high school, because there's no reason that they can't learn peace building skills at a younger age from you and utilize those skills in their lives through school and develop it that way also. So I think it's really knowing you're available, knowing you're interested in that kind of thing, and perhaps there's a way to develop something. Maybe you can work with Fergal McCarthy as well. Fergal is a member of our club also, and make those connections. If there's a way to come up with a listing of who to call on, that we would be able to reach out and connect with you when we're having a global project going on, and how best to utilize your skills and utilize that training. I do agree that, you know, we invested in you as Rotarians and our gifts to Rotary Foundation, and let's see how we get some payback and return on that investment. And you would enjoy that as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, can I just respond, Jim, real quickly to that?
Sure.
Just, it's kind of like a follow-up. So basically, yeah, so thank you for that. And I did just want to appreciate several of the Rotarians on this call who are helping support me to get to Calgary. So I am going to be there and part of the work there, which is great. But also just to let, just to kind of, maybe people on this call could support, we had a funded position for a while out of Chicago working with alumni group, because I've been very active. And that was kind of defunded. And so there's not really one person that's actively helping us organize and reach out. And, you know, with over 1,000 people, that kind of investment and priority would be really helpful. So maybe that's something that we can look at, kind of building up, including possibly a budget, you know, for the Alumni Association, so that we can do more retreats together, projects together, because we've kind of been struggling with that piece. So I really appreciate that, Rudy. And then any support from people on this call would be great as well.
Great, Catherine, and we love what you're doing. Jeff, I believe you had your hand up first.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. And thanks very much, Rudy, for giving us the bigger picture of Rotary and what we're doing and to build peace, continue to build peace. Excuse me. I'm just wondering if any of us here, any Rotarians, are invited to join some of the monthly calls that your e-club is doing, and if so, how do we register for those? Thank you.
Oh, so yes, we invite you to join us. We meet every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, and if you'll drop me an email or you go to our website, you can, if you will, send me an email. It's contact@rotaryeclubofworldpeace.org. And I get those emails and I'll send you the link. So you can either send my personal rudywestervelt@gmail.com or send them through our website. Then I know you're on there so that we can send you the link. But yeah, we'd love to have you join us.
Thanks very much, Rudy.
Great. And Quanta, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I was thinking that all these wonderful things that the Rotary has been doing over a century, but also I was wondering how, you know, when you build a building in an earthquake-prone area, you make it flexible, you make it strong but flexible, so that when certain challenges come, the building does not collapse. So I'm thinking that how can Rotary be flexible and also make sure that somehow all that they are doing is not obliterated by a nuclear bomb. So I'm hoping that the Rotary leadership, I forgot there are two of them, like I think one on resolution, one on legislation, that they somehow become flexible and understand that this TPNW has to be endorsed by Rotary. I just wanted to ask you, how can we manage doing that as Rotarians, 1.4 million?
Well, I think those are good questions. Certainly with our one of the reasons our Rotary Foundation has such a high rating is our sustainability of our projects and long lasting. And so it's probably one of those things as we don't build buildings, but we do other projects in there. But there's no reason we couldn't make sure as part of those projects that we are asking those type of questions. And so perhaps there's a way to do that in these communities. I don't, that when you have an earthquake that's a 7.7 or close to an 8, there's hardly anything that'll stand up to that size of an earthquake. And certainly in those regions where we saw over in Thailand and Myanmar, those were just, some of those areas were shacks that just came down. We saw that one building that we're actually in the process of building, and I don't know how many stories it was, but just collapsed and buried the workers underneath it. And so, again, those are definitely challenges. There's the same challenges we have here in the United States with fires. Here in Southern California, we've had 2 really bad fires, wildfires, and they're beginning to start using building materials that are they're able to withstand when they rebuild the construction material to be able to withstand heat so it doesn't burn. But it's again, those are challenges in learning to have those way. Where I live, we sit on a fault line, and we're, knock on wood, hope in our lifetime we don't have it. We have little shocks, but we've had some big ones here as well. So those are, again, we should, as Rotarians, look out there and challenge the world and try to get the best information out we can, I guess.
Yeah, David Newman, you have a question.
Yeah, this is a terrific presentation, Rudy, as always. And I've been a great beneficiary of the wonderful work that Rudy and Karen have done, and it's been inspiring for me and my wife Brenda in Winnipeg. What I wanted to do is really pose 2 questions. One relates to addressing opportunities for Rotary Peace Fellows. We have 7 in Winnipeg who live here and work here and are holding positions of significant importance and are therefore great influencers for change. And by working with them, there's great power within our community and from our community to do magnificent things. I think the opportunities available for Rotary Peace Fellows as interns and working in contracted positions. For example, very specifically, I'm very interested if any Rotary Peace Fellows have an interest in a project that we have towards path to peace in Myanmar and the Asian region. And we already have 3 Peace Fellows involved in that. But the significance of that is huge, because if this works the way it's proposed, it will work. This could be done in Israel, Palestine. This could be done in Russia, Ukraine. This can be done anywhere in ways to bring about lasting, sustainable peace for the benefit of all. So my question, Rudy, is what kinds of interest is there throughout your club, in your districts you're involved with, in supporting a project in that region of the world? A global grant will be applied for out of Canada and British Columbia for that purpose. And the Rotary Peace Fellows involvement would be a critical part. The second question really relates to the Council on Legislation. Quanta has obviously spoken to the greatest existential immediate threat and risk we have to humans surviving because of human misjudgments and choices and misuse of power. But right now, before the council and legislation, I urge everyone to get involved with the global democracy of Rotary. Know who your core representative is. That's your council on resolutions representative. Know who your council on legislation representative is, because they are your parliamentarian in the global democracy of Rotary. And if they're not voting against what is now before the council on legislation, which is really to avoid dialogue about diversity, equity, and inclusion, avoiding dialogue about what is deemed to be political, yet is a moral and humanitarian imperative, like nuclear weapons, like climate change. So there's an effort being made by people that don't want to even talk and have Rotary involved in the root cause issues of existential importance. And if we peace builders in Rotary don't understand that and don't mobilize to resist that kind of misuse and effort to change what Rotary has stood for, and under the leadership of Paul Harris, had a moral and humanitarian cause, which now Rotarians at the highest level seem to shy away from. So I asked Rudy, again, my second question is how can we deal with that kind of threat and risk to what Rotary must stand for? Because if they don't do it, who else will? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll answer your first question first there on a global grant that you're coming up with, and actually our club president's on here, but on our club meeting, we're doing a club assembly on the 29th of April, and we're going to be discussing, brainstorming about what Rotary projects or global grants our club wants to be part of. And so that'll be part of the discussion. So we can add that to the mix. If you'll send us a little bit more information on what you're putting together, we'd be glad to add that to the mix. Secondly, on the other question, if you go look at the Rotary website, they've come out strong in support of our diversity as Rotary. They've stood up pretty strong on that. I did reach out to John Huco and asked how Rotary was going to answer some of these other issues coming out of Washington, D.C. They are, not sure this should be on recording, but they're concerned because they're, and rightfully so, concerned that if they're not careful, that we would lose our nonprofit status as the largest humanitarian organization in the world. And so they do need to tiptoe a little bit around that. That doesn't mean they shouldn't come out and stand for getting rid of nuclear weapons. I'm actually more concerned about artificial intelligence starting a nuclear war than human beings sometime right now, what's going on out there. But on some of these issues, there's no reason not to put them at least out there in writing. Our council on legislation look at those and begin to deal with them. And we need to be questioning that locally and internationally. I know in our own district, we've had a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. And with the atmosphere in the United States, they've backed down and they just call the committee now belonging. And I say that, personally, I say the heck with that. We stand for diversity. That's who we are as Rotarians. That's what I believe, and that's what we should believe. And if it's a bad word, I don't know why you're in Rotary, because we represent all people, all humanity, all shapes, sizes, religions, cultures, whatever it happens to be. And we represent all people because we're all one humanity. And we need to not be afraid to stand up for that. And I truly believe that. And back, I worked for almost 30 years with the Kroger company. And when I was in Atlanta, Georgia, which was the largest division of Kroger supermarket chain, we had 162 stores here. The president of that division, I was running distribution center at the time for all of grocery, frozen food, and perishables for that division. And he made sure that his stores looked like the communities that the store existed in. Their employees looked like that community. And that was impressed on me. And I made sure that my employees and my distribution centers looked the same way. And there were all shapes and sizes and races and men and women. And I had women in leadership roles where people said, we never had women there before. Yeah, that's your own problem. And we pushed to be diverse in these areas. And we had stores inner city Atlanta, and I volunteered and worked with a elementary school. Minnie S. Howell Elementary was the name of that school, and the principal there called us salt and pepper. But I worked with the youngsters there at that school, and it was very enjoyable working with these kids inner city. And again, we need to stand for that. Our clubs need to look at that. And we talked earlier on about the mix of just men and women in Rotary and Rotary clubs. There's no reason we're missing the boat when you go and look at the statistics out there. There ought to be at least 50% women Rotarians in the world, and certainly in our districts and our clubs. And I had mentioned that our club is 60 or 70% women. In our E-Club of World Peace, they're a lot better peacemakers than the men. And but it's important for us to stand up for that, and that is I still believe that's the one thing we stand for in the world is diversity as Rotarians. And some of the other issues we need to be able to stand up. Now, people want to make those political issues, and we're not in politics. That's their own problem making them political. For me, it's not political. Our survival on the planet here and taking care of our planet, those are important things, and taking care of each other. So we need to stand up for that. We need to keep talking about that. And we need to not be ashamed to talk about it and be open about it. And we don't have to do that in a way that's political. We can sidestep that and say, it doesn't matter if you're what color you are, whether you vote for one party or another, whether you live in one country or another. Again, we're all the same here. We all have the same needs, and we need to support each other like we do as being the greatest humanitarian organization. I still believe that in the world. And I hope that answered your question a little bit, David.
I just say, if Rotary International out of the United States doesn't stand up and even risk not being bullied, it doesn't have to be in the United States of America. Rotary could be anywhere else in the world where it's welcomed, celebrated, and not fearful of a government taking away the magnificent potential of this organization. So if they're doing this out of fear, then they're allowing themselves to be suppressed. So I would say, stand up, stand up. And if they take it away, the whole world will gang up in support of Rotarians everywhere.
David, thank you. We're all in agreement. I appreciate that. Barbara, you have a question.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Rudy. I have been with him since 2016 for the Rotary World Peace Conference. And I was going to ask you a question. Where'd you get your passion for Rotary? But you just showed us your passion. So I don't have to ask that question. But the real question is, why are we not inviting all of the people to join us on Tuesday night? We not only have speakers, but when we have a conference like the one in Turkey, we had people who went there allow us to hear what it was like to be there and then what are the next steps. Our club is, I'm so proud to be a member of the Rotary E-Club of World Peace. And because of the fact that we take the next step. So we hear a speaker, but what's the next step? What's our call to action? And I think tonight, Rudy, you gave us the call to action. And I think David Newman gave us a call to action. Catherine gave us a call to action. And so I'm going to ask you, Rudy, what's our call to action after talking with you tonight?
I think each of us needs to go back. Certainly we're going to do that in our own club of E-Club of World Peace and see how we put many things in action. Our club probably is a little bit unique in that our members also represent about 27 other nonprofits dealing in the peace building arena. And so it's an interesting mix. And part of this I'll push back on you, Barbara, also as UNA USA, and you're across the United States here. That as a group need to come up and address Washington D.C. and say, hey, as UNA USA members across the United States, we believe in the UN, we believe in what the UN does, and we need our US government to support the United Nations. And I'm going to push back on that. You need to step up as your organizations that you represent. And
Full
you've got
for the UN. I'm totally with you, Rudy.
Yeah,
And we're doing that right now. Mhm.
Yeah, and for each of us here, when I covered things tonight, look at doing projects locally in your community. Go to your schools and see what their needs are. Go to your senior center. Go to different areas out there that you can help change somebody's life and make it for the better, and continue to do that work. Home host a student from another country for a year in your home while they go to school over here and make a lifetime friendship. And there's plenty of things I mentioned tonight. Pick one or two of those and go do them.
We're way over time. I don't want to go longer. Chuck, do you have a real short question?
Yeah, yes,
I
I
don't
do.
want to cut anybody off either.
Yes, thank you. I was actually elected the chair of the United Nations Association Council of Organizations here in Washington, D.C. 20 years ago. And when I told them what they needed to know instead of what they wanted to hear, they booted me out. So the idea of putting human rights and the environment above the protection of national sovereignty within the UN is just not going to happen. And the SDGs are the only thing we can do is to buy them. And there's a quote by the Bank of America president who basically suggests this as a way of keeping capitalism and profit making sustainable. Anyway, I have a project, Judy, I really want to talk to you. If we can talk after this on phone, I would love to talk to you about the Project 250 that I think can bring all of this together into a comprehensive message and blow the lid off of Rotary membership.
Yes, let's do it. I thank you all so much. This has been so fantastic. Rotary, we could go on and on, and this would be great. But thank you so much for Rotary. We are indeed grateful for what you do, what you bring, and the information you bring to us. We all thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge and your expertise with us. But please join us next month because we're excited to bring Linda Lowe, a recent recipient of the Rotary International Champion of Peace Award. She recently presented at the Rotary International Peace Conference in Turkey, presented at the incoming district governors at the International Assembly, and so much more. Again, Rudy, we thank you so very, very much. And with that, I wish you all